What up, Poly fam? It's your girl Vita. Hey, how you doing? And I am coming to you today with another video. First of all, I wanted to say thank you for the responses that I've gotten to the last couple of videos that I've done. It is super humbling to me and like super shocking that they resonated and struck a chord with so many of you. I was just so surprised by the amount of positive response that I got from those videos. I'm so glad that you guys appreciate them and that they were helpful. I do want to let people know that I'm no poly guru. I haven't really even been doing this for a very long time. And my triad is now defunct. So, you know, I don't want to project myself as this expert or anything like that. I'm just a person, I guess, that thinks a lot and has a lot of opinions and just wanted to share them and want to help people based on my observations. Some of the stuff I say may apply to you, some of it may not. And you can judge whether or not, you know, the things that I say, you know, based on my credentials, quote unquote, work for you. But, you know, I have made some observations and I can definitely tell you, at least if I can't tell you what to do, I can definitely tell you what not to do based on some of my experiences. But thank you guys for all the positive feedback. I'm glad you really like them. I don't know how often I'll be doing them, but as the mood strikes me and I think about certain topics, you know, I'll be making videos. And the reason actually why I'm doing this one is because in one of the poly forums that I'm a part of, called Black and Poly, which is a poly group for people of color, there was a topic about veto arrangements. And if anybody has been around the poly community for a long period of time, you know that veto arrangements are a very hot button issue in the poly community. And I so appreciated the person's post because the reason why they were posting it was to say, you know, if you've been the victim, quote unquote, of a veto arrangement, you know, how do you deal with it, the pain and the anger and the resentment of a veto arrangement? And, you know, that was the information that she was trying to get. But, you know, a bunch of people began to comment on it and comment about the validity of veto arrangements and whether or not you should or shouldn't have them and their opinions about it. And so it kind of took away from the intent of her post. And I kind of look at veto arrangements as like jealousy in poly. You know, instead of us sitting there, you know, crying, it shouldn't exist, and trying to eradicate it, we might as well just accept the fact that, you know, it does exist, that there are people out there that are going to experience it and they need tools on how to deal with it. So, I kind of look at it in that way. You know, people say, oh, jealousy shouldn't exist in poly and we need to get rid of jealousy. Well, reality is it's going to exist. If you have human beings and they're doing this, some people are going to experience it. And rather than just, you know, acting like it's not there or it shouldn't be there, you know, we need to be equipping people on how to better deal with it. And so I feel the same way about veto arrangements too. And I have my own opinions about it. And I'm not really going to share my opinions about whether or not I think they should or should not exist, because I can see both sides of the argument, you know, and why people feel the necessity to have them and why they think that they're not, you know, they should not be a part of poly. So, you know, I'm not going to give my opinion on them for or, you know, plus or good, because I have, you know, conflicting views about them. So, but, you know, I do want to talk about what you can do if you become the victim of a veto arrangement. And so the first thing I need to tell you about is what is a veto arrangement. So a veto arrangement, or a red button, is when a person is a part of an existing couple and they give their spouse the authority to end a relationship for them. So say I had a boyfriend and we were dating for a period of time and my husband did not want me to date him anymore. My husband could tell me, you need to break up with him, and I would agree to go and break up with him if my husband said that, you know, they wanted me to break up with them. So that is a simplified version of a veto arrangement, and I'm sure that there are some other nuances to it, and different people have different clauses and different agreements surrounding them, but that's probably the bare bones definition of it. And when it happens to people, at least from the things that I've seen, I've never experienced it, thankfully, but it leaves, it's a very difficult thing for all persons involved. First of all, for the spouse that is exercising that veto privilege or saying, you know, I'm going to veto my spouse's, you know, other significant other or other partner, even just someone that they maybe have just casually started dating, that's not an easy decision to come to, because you know that it's probably going to cause some issues with your spouse, especially if they really, really, really cared about that person, or began to really care about that person, or really enjoy that person. For the spouse that the veto gets done to, where you're told, okay, you need to end your relationship, you end up feeling very resentful, very angry, and upset with your partner, because, they essentially took something from you that you wanted for no real reason, or at least in your mind, no real reason. And then for the person, the other significant other, who got affected by the veto and they basically got cut, you are frustrated because someone outside of your relationship made a decision for you that relationship should end. And it wasn't your choice, and it wasn't even the person in the relationship with you, their choice. It's easier to take a breakup if the person that is with you says, I don't want to be with you anymore. But if someone outside of that relationship says, you guys are no longer going to be together, neither one of you had a say in it, that's a very painful thing to deal with. And so I'm going to talk about, those different aspects and how you can deal with a veto arrangement if you become the victim of one. Okay, for the spouse that is going to say, I am going to cut off my partner's partner. Firstly, let me talk to couples in general. Couples, if you have a veto arrangement and you guys decide, you need to sit down with your spouse and say, are we going to do those things? If you have a veto arrangement and discuss the terms, myself personally, I feel like veto arrangements, like I said, I can see I can see both sides of it. I think they should be, if you have one, if you decide to have one, they should only be used for these extreme circumstances. Like, if your partner's other partner was a physical threat, or a threat to, the home life, especially if you have children, or your spouse, if they were emotionally, mentally, or physically abusive, if they had an extreme drug problem, if they were involved in criminal activity, I could see someone, wanting to veto a partner based on those kinds of things, those very extreme circumstances. But what we see more often than not is vetoes are being used for these very arbitrary reasons, like, well, I just didn't like them, or, you were just too into them, and, that kind of thing. And, more of the feeling threatened, by that other relationship than it is for these very extreme circumstances. And I could understand the flip side of the veto arrangement, to where the partner is saying, well, I would like you to trust that I'm adult, that I have eyes, and yeah, I might get caught up in the haze of NRE and all that stuff like that. And, love can kind of induce this blindness where you're not really seeing, very clearly. But I'd like you to trust that eventually, that I'm a competent and rational enough person that I could, eventually come to a place to where I could see that, this is damaging and destructive, and make the choice for myself, that I am no longer going to engage with this person, and also trust that I'm not going to bring someone into my life that's going to cause issues between my pre-existing commitments. So if you, first of all, couples, if you have a veto arrangement, you need to let any outside partners know. That is the ethical thing to do. Before they get into a relationship with your partner, or before you get into a relationship with someone, you should let that person know, we have a veto arrangement in place. If my partner feels threatened by our interaction, I've agreed to allow them to say, you have to end the relationship, and I would honor that. You need to tell your outside partners that, or your additional partners, that they should be made aware of that, before they begin a relationship with you, so that way they can make a decision whether or not they want to enter into a relationship with someone that has a veto arrangement. A lot of times couples are not telling people that. They know they have the veto arrangement, but the other people coming in don't know that. And so, that's just not an ethical thing to do. Anybody that's going to be affected by the veto arrangement should know about it ahead of time. So that's number one. If you are the partner that is utilizing the veto, or, you're going to cut your partner's partner, you really should not be doing it for these arbitrary reasons, like you just didn't like the person, or, they kind of, rub you the wrong way, or, you feel like your partner's, relationship with them is just too strong and too intense. You really shouldn't do that. Number one, because I don't think, myself personally, this is just my opinion, I don't want to choose my partners for my partner, because I don't want them choosing my partner's for me. And even though you may not understand what your partner sees in this person, or why they're, into them, they're grown adult, and that's their choice, and who, we all know that you really can't control who you connect with, who you click with, who you establish chemistry with. And, it's much easier to tell your partner, you know, you got to get rid of this person than it is for you to say, you know, hey, I'm feeling really threatened by this person because, you know, you guys are getting along so well and I can see the chemistry between you, you know, and I want that for our relationship, and I feel like we've lost that. How can we, you know, reestablish that in our relationship, you know, and I'm feeling really threatened by that person. That's a very vulnerable thing to do. It's much easier to just say, well, you know, you just need to get rid of that person than deal with, you know, the fact that you're feeling scared and threatened. But it's so much better if you deal with the fact that you're feeling scared and threatened, because the thing about veto arrangements that is kind of tricky is it never really, if you have a veto arrangement in place, it kind of stunts your ability to grow, because you know in the back of your mind that, you know, if you become too uncomfortable with your partner's, you know, additional relationships, that you can just kind of end it and, you know, restore yourself back to a place of comfort, rather than saying, okay, well, you know, because I can't control this, you know, I'm going to have to grow so I can learn how to deal with this. So don't arbitrarily do that. You better make sure that if you choose to veto someone's partner, that it is a very serious, that you really, really think about it, and that you you stand by that decision, you know, because if you're just kind of arbitrarily tossing it around, you know, one of the things that creates when you veto a partner's partner, it creates a lot of bitterness and anger and resentment toward you. And you have to be willing to go through that for the decision that you make and stand by it. So you don't want to do that capriciously. So and understand that, you know, your partner's probably going to be upset with you for a while, and you need to own that, and you need to know that they're going to be upset with you, and not be upset with them for being upset with you for this. Yes, I understand that they agreed to allow you to this place to do that, but, you know, it doesn't mean that they're not going to have any feelings about it, and they're probably not going to be very positive. If you are the partner who the veto was used on, so you had an outside partner that was you know, cut, how you deal with it is say, well, I agree to allow my partner to do this, and then you have to not take it personal. Your partner didn't do this because they hate you and they just want to rob your life of joy. They did it because they were scared more often than not. Either they were scared themselves or they were scared for you. So they were scared that you were engaging someone that was not going to be good for you, or they were scared that they were going to lose you. And essentially that comes from a place of love. They loved you, they love you, they care about you, they care about their relationship with you. And when that feels threatened, or when they feel like you're threatened, they felt the need to act. And so you have to try to step outside of your feelings of anger and bitterness and try not to take it personal. And you need to sit down with your partner and go, okay, what were you feeling? Why did you feel like that person, you know, that you had to get rid of that person in my life? You know, and you need to be willing to listen with an open heart and, you know, see if you contributed to them feeling threatened. You know, if you did the necessary things that you were supposed to do to keep them feeling secure, or if you contributed to them feeling threatened by that person, either by neglect or, you know, out of control NRE, or, you know, just not being mindful of, you know, nurturing that pre-existing relationship. So once it's compassion and, you know, having to place yourself in your partner's shoes and say, you know, they didn't do this to me. You know, it has nothing to do with them personally trying to do something to me, and everything to do with, you know, their own insecurity. You know, it's about them and how they were feeling, and it wasn't about me, and try to step outside of those. And then also, like I said, you're going to have to remind yourself that you agreed to do this. And then you may have to say to yourself going forward, you know, I don't like this, and, you know, and revise that and say, you know, I'm no longer going to, you know, have a veto arrangement. I don't think it's fair. I don't like it. I don't like when it's done to me. You know, I'd like us to revise our rules so that we no longer have this in place. But you do have to understand that your partner may not feel comfortable with that, and that could cause its own problems. You know, you're going to have to take that on. So you're going to have to kind of do some soul searching with yourself with regards to that. If you are the partner of the person who got the veto used on them, and so now you're the one who got the axe, number one, to single people, if you're engaging with couples, before you get in a relationship with someone that's in a pre-existing relationship, you need to ask, do they have a veto arrangement? Don't just assume that couples are going to tell you that, because some people are not. You know, you need to ask. You need to say, hey, this is a question I have. Do you guys have a veto arrangement? If your wife or your husband feels, you know, threatened by me, are they going to tell you that we can no longer be together? So that way you can make an informed decision about whether or not you want to engage with a person who has that in place. If you knew that going in and it happened to you, that's what you have to hold on to. You knew that going in, that was the risk that you took getting involved with this person. And so, that's just, those are the breaks. Those things happen. And then also try, and it's harder actually for you because you actually have two people to be angry with. You're angry with your partner for not standing up for their relationship with you and, saying, no, I'm not going to allow you to do this. I'm going to stay with this person because I love them. And then you're angry with the spouse because the spouse, ended your relationship for you and really didn't get your input in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So, you actually have two people to be upset with, which is even harder. You're going to have to kind of step outside of yourself and say, I agreed to do this if you knew going in, and, have compassion for the person and say, well, they didn't do this, because they just hate me, and they're trying to hurt me. They did this because they felt threatened. They felt afraid, they were hurting. And so that's why they did this. And I would even go so far as to talk to the person and, before you just, cast them aside as this horrible person and say, why did you do this? Why did you feel the need to get rid of me? What was the motivation behind this? Can we talk about this? Can we work this out? Can I speak to some of your fears, whatever they are, and come to a resolution rather than just getting upset with them and, getting frustrated and stuff like that, which I mean, you're in your own feelings and I understand and they're real, but you're going to have to step outside of them. If you don't know that there is a veto arrangement in place and then it happens to you, I'm pretty sure that's so jarring. You have to kind of know as a single person in the poly realm that that's out there. And so just kind of keep that in the back of your mind, that is out there, be wise, be wise about it. Check in with your metamors if you can. And, see how they're feeling about your relationship. See if there's anything that you can do to make them more comfortable. I'm not saying, you need to walk on eggshells and stuff like that. But that's why having a working relationship with your metamor is really important because, that way you can do those kind of check-ins and, hey, how you doing? So that, things don't get to that boiling point to where they feel like they have to get rid of you, or cut you or anything like that. But if it does happen to you, you're just going to have to kind of know that those are the breaks of dealing with married persons. Once bitten, look at it as a learning experience. Once bitten, twice shy, for the next, relationship that you have, to ask going in if you decide to deal with married persons. And I don't really want to do this in order to discourage people from dealing with people that are married, because there are lots of married couples out there that don't have veto arrangements and that don't, subscribe to those things. And actually, that's even an evolutionary process. You may have a couple that goes into poly with a veto arrangement because, poly is a very scary thing to do. And so you kind of start poly with all these safety nets. And as you get your footing, those safety nets start dropping away and you start saying, well, we don't really need this. We don't really need that. We're more secure. We're more secure in our relationship with each other. We're more secure that we can do this and still maintain our connection. And so those things kind of fall away. So not all couples have them, and so I don't want it to become this thing where single people are just like, I'm just never going to date with couples. But if this information is out there, if we're having these conversations, if we're talking to each other and making informed decisions, we can definitely have better interactions. So this video is 18 minutes long. I talk a lot. I try to keep it short, but I'm going to have to figure out how to keep these like 10 minutes and under. But as I always tell you guys, if you stay through the whole thing, you freaking rock. Share this with a single person or, a married person so that we can get that information out there so that people are dealing with each other ethically. And also, if couples have a veto arrangement and I'm going to say this to single people, if couples have a veto arrangement and they have decided that they have that and you get axed and the person still tries to engage with you, don't do that. If that person still tries to engage with you after, the spouse gave you the axe, you have to be ethical and say, I'm not going to do that. You agreed to do that with your spouse. Your spouse ended, our relationship, and I'm not going to carry on with you in a secret way. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to help you, essentially be unfaithful or untruthful or dishonest to your spouse. If you really wanted to be with me, you should have stood up from our relationship. And not allowed your spouse to do that in the first place. So, just want to throw that in there. Anyways, I will talk to you guys later. I hope you enjoyed this video and that it was helpful. And, that's it. You guys are rock stars if you stay through the whole thing. I will talk to you soon. Bye.